わさびアニメすごいですね。
Hey everyone, welcome to our Babes, Games, and Geeks stream. There we go. Sorry, I had my computer all the way up, but welcome to our stream. We are here today to go over our group. I have with me Mark and Ed, our DMs for the group. Currently, we like to just go over like who we are. A lot of you guys don't know who we are currently in Jacksonville, and essentially, Babes, Games, and Geeks is a group that I founded back in February with some of my best friends. And we wanted to create an environment in a group in which people of Jacksonville, especially women, can find this nerd group to, connect with. Because personally, in my experience as a female gamer over the past few years, I've had trouble finding an outlet in groups, friends to connect with, especially women in the community to really share my interest with. So essentially, I got with some friends and we were talking about things we like to, see in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is this huge, amazing city full of gamers, anime, cosplayers, everything, even D&D players, of course, and just go over all of that. And so we decided to create this group that really allowed women to find themselves and thrive. When I personally go to nerd groups or conventions, I find that, women are outnumbered severely. I don't know if you guys have had the same experience.
Yep, definitely.
In which, you see 1 in 20 women, one in 20 people are as a woman. And so I created this group to kind of help find others, feel the comfortability. Of course, we want to allow men in the group. This group is inclusive of all people, of course, but the guys that we have part of it understand the whole point and the purpose of which we're trying to do. So I appreciate that. And again, if you haven't been a part of our group or you're looking for something to do, we do host weekly meetups and events in which people can come out and have the same experiences. Come and not feel any sort of, especially when feel gatekeeped, excluded, uncomfortable in any sort of means, especially when it comes to that statistics of men and women in the room, because that can be something that can be really affect them. So, what do you guys think of the group?
I've been a member of your group since March. I joined up. Many things I was just looking to find some new Dungeons & Dragons players to play with. And I saw some posts of who were just saying, hey, I want to learn. How do I learn? And I saw more and more of that. So I just said, hey, can we do a meetup for people that want to learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons, and also something for experienced players to come and kind of get back into the hobby that have maybe been out of a while, but just offer a really inclusive, cooperative experience for people to learn Dungeons and Dragons, get to actually play Dungeons and Dragons, and just have a good time with each other. There's something just to be said about just sitting around a table and bonding, even if you don't personally know each other. By the end of the 2 or 3 hours, you do.
Yeah, that's one of the niches. Like Dungeons & Dragons is one of the niches that we've happened to, have meetups surrounded for. We have other meetups too. We have like book clubs. We have cosplayers that get together and, swap ideas, tricks, tips, and everything. So essentially, we just want to be the place that people can come to and find similar people and experiences to have that. And, that's one thing that I've noticed, we're trying to create, again, that environment in which they're comfortable. And so we have D&D meetups. We're starting bi-weekly soon with our Dungeon Masters, of course, leading the adventures. But, women make up 46% of all gamers in the entire world right now. And right now our group is 66% women and 3% men. And that's something that I find really interesting and I love. And so if you find yourself looking for something to get a part of, if you are a woman or a man, looking for a group to, be inclusive, share your ideas, share your interests. Be sure to find us on Facebook and Instagram to find that. So I'm going to let the guys take it away with our presentation regarding D&D, how to get started, how to, go through like the races, the gameplay, the classes. They're also going to talk about, everything in depth that you need to know or learn or even buy to get you started in the group. We also have a BGG guild for D&D. You can find us on Facebook as well, in which our DMs are kind enough and lovely enough to share information, as well as if you're just looking to get started with the group, they're more than happy to guide you. But we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Why a 101?
Why 101? Because the next slide. Sorry. Reason for one-on-one is, where to get started, how to help you learn to play the game, what you need, what you don't need. So just real quick, we wanted to go through for first-time players, and for the first time go around, is to kind of go through the real basics of what the mechanics are of how to play, and then worry about trying to actually make a character after once you know what the rules are. So what we did is we went through what are abilities and proficiencies, what are dice when you roll them, how does combat work, how do you explore, how do you interact socially, how do you use magic, and finally we do a little bit of what isn't a character and what do you do when you make a character. What does that mean to have a character in Dungeons and Dragons?
For those that don't know, could you explain what Dungeons and Dragons is?
Sure, I can take that. Yeah, I just wanted to go over when you hear Dungeons & Dragons, it's got a long history from the early 70s. So it's been around forever, and a lot of people have a lot of ideas of what they think it is or what they've heard it is. But basically, it is a role-playing game, and it's fantasy-based, but it's so malleable and so able. You can use anything you want. You want something where you can be more Lord of the Rings, you can do that. You want like a Harry Potter style setting, you can do that. You want something that's like Conan or The Witcher. You can any of these things. It all falls into that, and it's basically you play a specific character of a certain race or ability, and you have a sheet that tells you what this character has. But beyond that, there's so much freedom in there that you don't find it like video games where you have a set number of buttons where you have to do things. Dungeons & Dragons, if you can do it in real life, or if you can think of it in real life, you can do it. And there's a small set of rules and some dice that help you determine the outcome and leave the chance or the unknown into the game. But talking about what you need, you see these big rule books that people have, but the real rules are so small, and everything else is just enhancement. So it's such a dynamic game, and such a game that anyone can sort of fall into and start playing immediately.
Okay, so it's basically I thought of Lord of the Rings. When I think of D&D, I think of the orcs, the elves, everything else with it. And I also think of Stranger Things when the kids were playing D&D. That's my first intro to D&D, honestly. My first intro is Stranger Things, and so awesome. So anybody who doesn't know, obviously, tabletop comes to real life. It is real life. You're playing it in front of you. I like it because it's not a video game.
Right.
It's your imagination, which I find the absolute best.
And originally when it came out, they did everything was very Lord of the Rings based. They even used the term Hobbit until Tolkien estate told them to stop.
No longer use that word.
So let's get into actually, how to play the game. Okay. So let's start with our first section here. And this is your basics, is your ability scores and their modifiers. So each character has what are called ability scores, and it's a number that defines the magnitude of their ability. It's not just a measure of your innate capabilities, but also encompasses your training and competence and activities related to that ability. So is your character going to be muscle-bound and insightful? Are they going to be brilliant and charming, nimble and hardy? And so the ability scores are going to define these qualities, characters' assets, as well as their weaknesses. If you look at the little chart to the side, it's got 1 through 30 on there and the modifiers. A normal player character, your character will normally have an ability score between 8, maximum of 20. So you'll have a -1 to a +1 that you'll add to your dice rolls, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Sure. Your 6 abilities. Now, when I was talking before, you have a sheet of paper that shows sort of what this character you're playing what they have as far as their physical and mental and emotional ability. So you've got 6. Strength, that's what it sounds like. It's your physical power, your athletic training, and how much physical force you have. If you can punch down a door or leap across a ditch, or a stream of lava or something. Your dexterity, it measures your agility, your reflexes, and your balance. So when you're tightrope walking across, a bottomless pit, how well can you do that? You've got your constitution, it measures your health, your stamina, your vital force. So if you, get poisoned by a giant spider, are you going to fall down and pass out, or can your body handle it? Intelligence, it measures your book learning, your mental acuity, how quickly you can put 2 and 2 together, how much you can remember, if you need to remember all these big spells or riddles or things like that, the ability you have to solve puzzles, all come into play. Your wisdom shows how attuned you are to the world and how well you can pick up things in perception. Is something not right? Is there, you have a weird feeling that something is watching you? Or can you find your way out of the woods when you're lost? These all come down to wisdom. So you don't necessarily need to be smart to be wise, and they're separated for such purposes. Charisma comes down to how charming you are. Can you talk your way out of a tricky situation when you are overpowered, so you can't just smash your way through every encounter? Can you persuade a guard or a ferryman to take your party across the river when you only have 4 copper pieces and he wants 10 gold for it? Can you sweet talk? These are all things that charisma comes into.
So this is basically the first 5 minutes of any RPG when you're building your character.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. That's awesome. I love it.
So in addition to the ability scores, you also have things called proficiencies. So if your abilities are your natural innate talents, again, your strength, your dexterity, your intelligence, proficiencies, these are your learned abilities. These are things such as skills or training you've had. So your proficiency bonus adds to your ability modifier in situations where it can be added. And so you're going to see a lot through this slideshow going forward. I'm going to hammer in that repeat. It's going to be die roll plus your ability modifier plus your proficiency modifier, and that's kind of the basic of the game. So what can proficiencies be? They can be a melee or ranged weapon that you're good with. They can be what's called skill, or a tool that you might be able to use. Maybe you're a really good cook, or the most popular, most common, thieves' tools, to pick a lock or disable a trap. Also, we have what are called saving throws, and when you're casting spells, your proficiency bonus adds again to your ability score. Your character's background and class determine the proficiencies that you do have. And if you look again on the right-hand side of the screen there, you'll see what your character's level is and what the proficiency bonus is for that level. So these just add a little bit more and kind of customize your character beyond the basic abilities. And this adds, gives a little more flavor so that you're different from the person sitting next to you. So you can have 2 fighters sitting hanging next to each other, and they both could have completely different skill sets.
And this might be answered later on, but when it comes to your skill sets, in the last slide, your abilities, proficiency bonus, is all that you create on your own? Is it the responsibility of the DM who's running the game to check everything, or do you have, is the sheet answered for you, like the DM, the gameplay sheet?
The player sheet, you will, when you create your character, you will check off little bubbles, just like Scantron test, and next to it, and it'll tell you what it is and what to roll and what modifier it is. So what skill, like what ones are, dexterity based and what are strength based and such. So it's all laid out there really easy.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure because I just be the person that be like everything. Max.
So
I can take this. Adding up 3 rolls here, we've got ability checks. Now, this is a roll that overcomes a challenge, as we have here, that has a chance of failure. So, say you want to jump that stream or climb a wall. You go back to your skills, and we'll see what it is. And what you'll do is roll D20, and here. It's a 20-sided die. You roll that. Based on that number, you'll add your pieces, your proficiency bonuses and whatnot, and see what it comes to. If you succeed, hooray. If it fails, then we'll see what the consequences are. We've got attack rolls, and it's the same thing. You're rolling on the d20, and that's just do you hit when you swing your sword or shoot your arrow or throw a frying pan at somebody? Is that going to hit them, or if you're attacking with a spell, are you hitting them? And again, that all plays in all of your proficiency and all the other modifiers based on those statistics we talked about earlier will determine that. That's where the chance comes in. And then you've got saving throws. Again, if you take poison or get blasted with some fire or have or acid thrown on you, who knows? Anything can happen. So these are ways based on what you have. If you're really have high dexterity, maybe you can jump out of the way before it gets you. Or if you have high constitution, maybe that's not going to hurt you. You can just shrug it off. And then we have things called advantage and disadvantage. Sometimes you have to roll your dice at advantage or disadvantage based on, are you in the dark and you can't see? And you're trying to make your way across a rickety little bridge in the dark. So you'll have disadvantage to that roll, meaning you will roll 2 of the d20s and take the lower roll. If you have advantage, say you are attacking somebody, but they are tied up or stuck in the mud. So it's really easy to hit them. So you have advantage, and you will roll 2 and take the higher of the roll. So it is all modifiers based on the situation you're in.
I've always wondered what the 20-sided die was for. And now I know.
For great many things.
So, so just going a little more detail on each roll. Again, the game does boil down to just 3 rolls. Ability checks, attack rolls, saving throws. So going a little more is an ability check. Is any time it tests the character's innate talents and training in an effort to overcome a challenge. You don't always need to roll, though. That's the thing. It's if you're doing something that either A, there's no consequence for failure, or B, really there's no chance for failure, you don't need to make a roll. So the DM, the Dungeon Master, will call for an ability check when you attempt anything other than an attack. That's an attack roll. That has a chance of failure, and there are consequences for failure. So my example is opening a pickle jar does not require a strength check.
I don't know. I've had some pretty tough pickle jars.
But there's no consequence for failure.
So essentially,
So pickles might end up on the floor.
Exactly. Tragic.
oh my god. So essentially, the whole game is the 3 dice rolls, and you're just going through that each time with your players.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's all up to the DM whether they, as Mark just said, whether or not you need to. And there might be different modifiers and things based on how you phrase or approach how you want to do a certain thing.
So I assume playing once, you're getting the understanding, but after that, it's just you're good to go after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we said, the core rules and concept of the game is very simple.
Right.
It's just getting practice at it and then applying it. So using all of these skill proficiencies that we've been talking about, and they add to your ability checks, just as we had spoken about. So if you have strength, which is athletics, so if you're trying to climb a sheer cliff, or like you said, jump over a cavern, or lift up a heavy door, hold the door open while your party tries to scamper underneath it, and different things. The dexterity requires stealth. Are you going to be able to sneak past a guard? Or intelligence? Can you find the secret door? Can you decipher the writing on the scroll? So when we have wisdom, can you track that creature through the forest? Are you with survival? Are you someone who grew up in the woods and you have that proficiency? With persuasion, like I said, is charisma. Are you a natural schmoozer? Can you fast talk your way? Have you had a lifetime of being maybe an actor or a con man, where this is what you learn, this is what you need to do? We have a whole list of things here. I'll just take dexterity for example. Acrobatics. We all know Robin from the Batman. He started out as an acrobat before he became Robin. So he's got proficiency in acrobatics, and he can do all that kind of thing, jumping, using a pole vault to go over a wall, or climbing stealthily down a wall or up a wall, or all sorts of things you can think of. Sleight of hand. Are you like a card sharp? Can you like a up close magician? Can you switch out the fake book for the one you really want? And stealth, that's simple. Can you sneak past the guard? Can you get in there and unlock the door and get your party through before the guards are awakened or the dragon wakes up? All sorts of things like that.
Good old small.
Exactly. Are you the Bilbo?
When he used his charisma, his dexterity,
Yes.
everything.
He absolutely
Yes.
He was a thief, right? That was his
He was
assignment.
a burglar by chance.
Yes.
Man, he was almost there, I feel like, too, and then Small caught him and was like, nope.
But then he uses charisma
There we
and
go.
deception and persuasion and a little bit of performance
Yeah,
to
he
get
keeps
all.
small good.
Okay. He did. Yeah, he distracted him.
Yeah, so he was rolling high on those charisma scores after he got caught.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the risk was, get through it or risk being eaten by the dragon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Small stakes.
So the next roll, again, we're sticking to the 3 rolls, is your attack roll. Dungeons and Dragons has a lot of combat in it, usually. Depends on the dungeon master, depends on how you want to play it. If you want to do a lot of social interaction and not a lot of attack, fighting, that's fine. Just happens to be that the way the game is written, a lot of emphasis is put on the combat. So whether you're striking with a melee weapon, firing a weapon at range, or making an attack roll as part of a spell, you make an attack roll, which again is that D20 roll. On a hit, you roll damage, unless a particular attack has rules that specify otherwise. So some attacks cause special effects in addition to or instead of damage. A good example is there's a spell called Hold Person that paralyzes somebody if they fail their saving throw, which we'll get to in a bit. But it paralyzes them, and then you can just walk up and beat them.
Destroy them.
It sounded horrible. So the basics are making a melee or range attack roll. You're going to roll a d20 plus either your strength for melee or dexterity for range modifier plus proficiency or proficiency bonus. If you're making a spell attack, you're going to roll a d20 plus, depending on what type of spellcaster you are, your intelligence or your wisdom modifier plus proficiency. Everything is just that simple. It's your straight modifier plus proficiency plus a d20.
Okay, so your saving throws, also called saves, then they represent an attempt to resist a spell, a trap, poison, disease, or something similar. You don't normally decide to make a saving throw, but you're forced to make one because your character is at risk of harm in one of the above-mentioned ways. So based on your saving, to make a saving throw, as Margaret said earlier, you have your constants of your ability modifier and your proficiency, and the randomness comes in a d20. Just because you're good at it, even the most able-bodied person can still make a mistake and mess up now and then, and that's where the d20 comes in. So it's a very simple mechanic, but it is necessary, and that's a lot of fun to your game, where an entire like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing, where your whole heist could turn on one bad roll, and it just adds to the drama and suspense. and then how's your party going to work its way out of that?
I was gonna say that. So this all of us. I just want to make sure. So like when you're playing now, is it okay for people to like keep asking questions during the game, like for the DM, or like how would that work?
It's absolutely that's okay to keep asking questions. I mean, especially for people that are newer to the game. We definitely want you to ask questions. I mean, if you're not sure, ask questions. If we can answer on the spot, we'll answer on the spot. If it's something that maybe, hey, I don't know, we'll make a quick ruling now, and then we'll decide, and then afterwards we'll look up the specifics. That happens. Game Masters, Dungeon Masters, we're not perfect. We don't know everything off the top of our heads.
Okay, perfect. I know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin our mystique, but yes, no, we're human. We make mistakes, and we have to look at the rules the same as everybody else all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like I keep thinking of like when I go or play poker at a casino, I'm at the table and I'm like wondering like, is this my next move? And I ask the dealer's like, don't talk. So I just want to make sure we're good.
Yeah, no, this is not that. Yeah,
Perfect.
we want you to win. We don't. The house does not win. We want the gamblers to win.
And that's a good point you bring up. D&D is not a DM versus the player game. We're just, if you think of it as just we're all actors on a stage, and we're sort of like the prop manager and the director, but we just play a role. We play all the other people. You play the character. We want you to win, to have the story go on just well. If you kill off all your characters, then the game's over, and you have to start over. So it's not as much fun. That's something that people want to, understand about the game is that it's very collaborative. Everyone's working together.
And that's the biggest point. It is a collaborative effort. Everybody, is involved in the making of a good game. So we're going to run through this one real quick. Is again, all those roles we kept talking about. There's a thing called difficulty class. Sometimes called DC, or armor class for fighting types. But so most ability checks, attack rolls, and save players, they do have a difficulty class. You need to meet or exceed in order for success. A natural 20 or 1 is not necessarily an automatic success or failure if you're making an ability check or saving throw. Now, natural 20 on an attack roll is what's called a critical hit, and we'll get on with that. We'll get with that when we talk about combat in a little while. But just, if you're a dungeon master, and if you're first time dungeon master, or, you're very new to it, there's a little table there that gives you a basic idea of what difficulty you should set for what number you should set. It tells you that the task is easy, very easy, medium, hard, very hard, nearly impossible. And just a little number, so that gives you an idea of what to set, it at for your players if they're trying to do something that you haven't planned for as a dungeon master, which player characters will do a lot.
Just throw you for a loop.
Oh yeah.
It's like, wait a second.
Improvisation is the key to the idea. Okay, I'll go with this. Combat. There's several terms for combat that are used over and over and over. So you have, we'll start with alphabetically here, I guess. Attack bonus. Well, maybe not alphabetically, but start with the name. Your attack bonus is basically your modifier to hit an enemy. It's your ability to score plus your proficiency, and those I will keep coming back to those. And you'll add those to your D20 roll to see if you do what you want to do. Armor class is the number that you have to match with your attack to hit something or be hit by something. And it's usually determined by your armor you're wearing, your shield, and your dexterity modifier. We've got hit points, which is sort of a number that represents how much damage you or an enemy or something can take before it drops down to unconsciousness or death. And in the case of inanimate objects, until it's destroyed. Damage is how much damage you do. It's a dice roll or multiple dice used to that you use when you hit an enemy with your attack roll. or a saving throw is failed. And we've got critical hit, which is, like I said, when you roll a natural 20 on a d20, you score the critical hit, and you do double damage of the amount of dice that you normally would do. The last one being death saves, and once your hit points are reduced to 0, you make a d20 roll without any modifiers against a DC 10. So you basically just want to get 10 or better. And if you get 3 successes, you stabilize, and 3 failures, and oh no, you are dead.
There's some questions there in the chat coming in. I think I saw some right there. How many classes are there in Dungeons and Dragons? And there are 12 classes actually in the player's handbook. For anyone who wants to know. For what we're doing right now, since we are kind of doing a more of an introductory setting, we're using what are called the 4 core classes, which is just fighter, cleric, wizard, and rogue. Just to keep things easy, and also because those classes are printed free by Wizards of the Coast on their website for anybody to use, and that helps out, us and everybody else.
See if there's any more. Yeah, right here. What's your favorite class in D&D?
My favorite class.
They're like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah,
All of them.
not one of the 4 classes we're talking about here, but it's Warlock, because you're a magic user, but your magic comes from making a pact with some otherworldly entity.
Okay.
So be it a demon or an angel or anything, and it really plays well into it. It's a lot of fun.
Reminds me of Ghost Rider when he makes a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
That's
So,
exactly,
Yep.
that's exactly it.
Perfect.
I honestly, I like every class. If there's a little something to love about everyone, I've tried to play everyone at different times.
I was gonna say that. Like, do you stick with the one, or do you change it up per game, or it's just
I like to change it up
okay?
Yeah.
when I get to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But some of my favorite ones that for my players to play, some more memorable ones that I've had is, I really, as a game master, the rogues and paladins are just awesome.
Yep.
And especially once they get to the higher levels, watching people play them, and
Yeah.
they're a lot of fun to watch players get to use.
Yep. And they're tough to DM to find challenges for these classes that when they get really hard.
So I guess
I was gonna ask, when it comes to DMing, I mean, is there like a certain class that's easier than another? Like, what do you do if a game has, say you have 6 people playing and they're all warriors?
Fantastic.
Oh, it's easy.
Yeah. Well, it's not easier or harder for the DM really. It could pose a little challenge to the to the party. If you look at like the group from The Hobbit, it's all dwarves, and most of them would be considered fighters, and then Bilbo would be considered a thief or rogue, and then Gandalf would be a wizard. So they're mostly just fighters, and so that poses challenges, but it's fun because you got to work around it. A lot of times people try to spread the classes around, so you have a good like a strike team, where all of your possible encounters are covered. Anything you have your skill monkey who can do all these things. You have your fighter who can dash down things and protect the party. You have your smart guy, the wizard, who can solve puzzles and do that. And then you can have your face, your cleric who can heal people. And you have your face, you're usually a bard or some charisma-based person, paladin who will help out. Think of Drum Age, but like the A-team, where everyone in there had a specific skill that they used to help solve the problem of the week.
Gotcha. How long do campaigns last?
A campaign can last as long or as short as it kind of needs to be. It's up to what kind of story you're telling, really. Are you telling a long story, or are you telling a short story? I think a lot of people, when they think term campaign, they think it's a game that's going to last for years and years.
That's what I think.
And I've had those, but it's really hard for those to stay. More often than not, those tend to they tend to fall apart due to real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they can get stale. Nothing that the people, but the people just want to play a different character, or they want to play somewhere else, do some other sort of adventure. So yeah, but I would say a long campaign, usually about 8 months.
Yeah.
At long, a short one can be down to a month or two. Well, I wouldn't consider that a campaign, but maybe about a month or two, maybe 2 months for a very short one.
Would it be possible if I just wanted to hop in for one game, try it out? Is there like an hour, 2 hours I could just hop in?
Oh, yeah.
Play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There's all sorts of things you can do. It depends, and this is all things before the campaign or the game starts. How does the group want to do it? Does the group want to?
So you'll talk about it.
Does the group want to start a big long campaign, or do you want just a group things that last maybe 3 sessions, and then you go on to something else? There's always, especially if someone just wants to hop in and test it out, there's always a DM can work a character in. Just think of like a guest appearance on a TV show.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
You just work them in, and then you figure out a reason for them to be gone the next session, or if they want to stay 2 or 3, great. If not, pull them out. And it's just a way for everyone to get in there and see how they like it. No harm done.
Yeah.
And so as dungeon masters, I know we're kind of skipping back and forth, but as dungeon masters, how many dungeon masters are there? Like, do you say like I want to DM this, or like what? How does that work among the players?
It's one dungeon master for maybe a group of manageably 4 to 6 players is ideal. Anything, and that's kind of how the game's built around. But anything more than that, it becomes very difficult to sort of manage a large number of people just so that everybody has equal time.
Yeah.
It gets a little cumbersome, and anything under 4 players, it's a little more challenging because they can't do it quite as much as you can. Otherwise.
And how long does it take you? How long does it take a dungeon master? How many games would you say it takes to like really hone it in? Like for you guys, especially when you guys have dived in. You guys are obviously assuming you started as players.
Yes.
Yeah. It depends on. Some people find their stride really quick. I find I enjoy being a DM a lot, and so I'll put the time into it. It doesn't take that much time, but it's a matter of doing a little prep work and being able to roll with the punches. What you're doing, you don't have a script. You have a set of story points, and you tell the party, here's what's happening. You have no idea what they're going to do. So you have to be able to think, okay, if they do this, then what would logically, and just think of it in your head, okay, so we'll go this direction then. And it takes time to be comfortable with it. The first time you do it, you'll feel like it was a train wreck, and your players will probably think it was pretty cool.
Everyone's throwing different things at you.
Exactly.
I just want to get here. Those Summerfire Cosplay. Are there any groups or guilds I can join to learn how to play it? Glad you asked that. We have that.
Yeah, so like we were saying earlier, and for those who have probably just hopped in, what we're doing today is going over the basics, how to get started, things you need to know, especially things like the terminology, especially, or how your characters are built, how the gameplay goes. And if we don't get to all of it, we're gonna post this entire presentation online so you can view all of it and read it. But locally, I know other local places. Darby's Dungeon, she is a fantastic game store, and she will have the space for, I think she's opening November 1st for her grand opening, for players to come in and play D&D and have, and DM wise, there's other groups that you can learn about where you can meet some, but storefront wise, I believe Darby's Dungeon as well as Java Game House. You mentioned another store earlier.
Yeah, FLGS, Friendly Local Game Store, on Ortega near near the Naval Air Base.
There's all these fantastic stores in town. All you have to do is probably just I would suggest Google it, or I'm happy to post some stores that I know personally, and if you guys have anything to add to that, we can add that.
Sure.
For anybody looking to get started. We also personally have a guild, a BGG guild that you can join on Facebook that we're more than happy to, our dungeon masters currently, and Mark are happy to help you out, learn how to play.
Absolutely.
We personally, our group, Babes, Games, and Geeks, plans on having bi-weekly meetups, preferably on Saturdays, so it fits everyone's schedule. So if you want to learn how to play, you're looking for a new group, anything of the sort, you can check out our personal pages, Babes, Games, and Geeks, and then we'll also post the storefronts for you guys. In that regard, I know we have 10 minutes left. I know we have the rest of the presentation, but I kind of wanted to get kind of y'all's perspectives on why do you guys love D&D?
That's a good question. So yeah, definitely. Again, we are having our next meetup next week, in fact.
Yes.
So for anybody that wants to learn how to make a character, make their own characters, and then we followed up by an actual, hopefully the first of many games where you'll get to play those characters. We're doing all that. So it's definitely for new players and experienced players. You know, if you haven't been able to play for a while and you're looking for a new group, or if you're new to town, check out our Facebook page. Again, Babes, Games, and Geeks on Facebook, and we'll get you there. We'll definitely get you to learn D&D. Why don't we love D&D? I've been playing.
What's not to love?
What's not to love? Just being able to kind of tell your own story, tell your own narrative.
Being part of the story and building that with other people. You're not just following along, like I said, like a video game storyline where it's very linear. We can have a conversation in character that will just grow, and we'll grow our characters together and tell this really awesome story that has no potential end and no real endpoint other than what we as a group playing this out.
I love that. I think that's the best part. I watched the first D&D live gameplay a couple weeks ago with our group members, and I thought DMs had a script. I had no idea. I walked behind one of the DMs, and I'm like, "What are you reading?" And he's like, "My imagination." So
Yes.
That's fantastic. And I think everyone's introduction is typically Lord of the Rings or something of the sort for D&D, but everyone's asking Dungeons and Cosplay. Do you guys dress up at all?
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, but if you want to show up to absolutely cosplay, yes, yes.
I ran there's a popular campaign called Curse of Strahd, where the main character Strahd is a vampire lord. And I did a thing where I changed a little, and it was his wedding, and so I dressed up as, I didn't put makeup on, but I dressed up in like a suit, like a three-piece suit, like I was getting married, and it had like a jeweled brooch here, and so I wore that as part of a costume for the wedding. But that's about as much, I'd say, cosplay as I've done in my games.
I love that. I know that Stranger Things, I forget his name, the kid that got lost in the other side, upside down. He wore the hat and everything, and so I love that.
Yep. Oh, and another thing, when you play, and they had on Stranger Things, you have minis, so there's little fun things. Another part of the hobby, you get to paint and make, and you can see it. We've got like a giant there and a little skeleton. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's an archer elf. All sorts of neat little things, and of course dice. Dice upon dice upon dice that you can use, and all these things you can customize and make the game your own and make it fun.
Yeah, and you don't need to use miniatures. That's you can use what's called theater of the mind, where you just describe out the scene, and all of you use your imagination. Dungeons and Dragons, because I don't know how much time, but Dungeons and Dragons, it's not an expensive hobby. I think again we were talking about the books earlier. They seem very intimidating. It's like, oh, I need all these books. No, you don't. In fact, Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, the company owns them. They do have on their website, they have a set of free basic rules.
And that's all you
I was
need.
gonna
That's
say
all you
everything
need.
should be accessible.
Yes.
And I think we have the links. If anybody wants to get started, look at the rule books or any information. I'll get the links and post them up from you guys so that you guys can access them, because you can pretty much just bring your phone or iPad to a game
Yep.
Oh yeah.
and play.
You're good to go.
Yep.
Now, if you want the full game experience, you will need to buy the books. That does have the full 12 character classes and all the extra races, and there's a few more books out there that have more stuff. But again, that's all for extra flavor if you want to do it.
And the amount of play you get, if you think about the value for the dollar. The book, I know MSRP, I think is about 50.
Yeah.
But that's what you need for forever. You never have to buy another book unless you want to expand and do other things. If you want to be DM, you may have to buy one or two other books just for to be able to get all the tools you need. But
You have monsters.
Exactly. Yes.
Lots of monsters.
They're kind of important. But to actually play the game, like I said, free stuff, a pencil, and a set of dice that will cost you $10. And they even have free apps where you can look up, and they have dice rollers.
Dice rolling now, yeah.
And so you don't have to buy a physical book. You can still get all that. There's lots of online tools that make D&D very accessible and user-friendly. You can run everything from a smartphone.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's
The leaps and
definitely.
bounds it's come since I started.
I remember the
Years
days.
ago.
I remember the days. Yeah, I remember the days of carrying a gym bag full of books because
Yeah.
I needed all those books to make a character. But
Yeah. So it's just a great way. Basically, you're sitting around a table or in front of a computer, screen Discording, and it's a group that you're telling a story together. It's sort of like improv, with just a few rules to help everyone stay on the same page and play the story out. Like I said, the game's limitation is your imagination, basically. It sounds a little corny, but it is true.
It is true.
Yeah. And if you're, again, I think we only have a couple minutes left, but to really hit on it, like, if you're a new player, if you're experienced, we highly encourage to join our group, find our guild, BGG Guild, D&D on Facebook. That way you can connect with our DMs. I highly encourage for those that have hopped on and missed the beginning, our group, Babes, Games, and Geeks, is centered around bringing the nerd community together, especially women. So if you're a girl out there, especially, and you want to find a D&D group or get started, I personally have always been, since I discovered it, been interested in it. It's just been difficult for me to kind of find, again, those women to connect with. But having these wonderful DMs who are more considerate and showing us and teaching us everything, please find us, join us. We also have other weekly meetups surrounding games, movies, board games, literally anything that you can think of, we'll do it. If you would like to join the group and there's something that you're particularly interested in, like a manga meetup or anything of the sort that we haven't yet touched on, please send a message and we'll get it going. We will literally do whatever we can to accommodate you in your interests and bring together the community. And the best part is we're all locals and we can meet each other in person.
Absolutely.
Yep. I know it's a huge town we live in, so it's tough sometimes we're at the beach to get over to the west side, but it's a great way. This group, is a great way to get everyone together to find out, because otherwise you really wouldn't know. Where these people are. You feel isolated in such a big town.
Right.
So we'd just like to thank you guys. To find out more about us, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We have our members groups. We have tons of stuff planned for you guys. It's for the community, for you guys. So please be sure to check us out. And we're good here.
Yes.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Go out, roll some dice.
That's right.